Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Lavanya Shishishai speaking to you today, and I have come again to give you a message of hope of recovery from schizophrenia, complete hope of recovery from schizophrenia. What I'm telling you is that you can completely recover from schizophrenia, irrespective of all the crap that other people on the internet are telling you regarding how it is treatable but not curable, and all of that stuff. So, I have a message for you today. What is the message I have for you today? You need to commune with the cosmos. You need to communicate with the cosmos. You need to psychologically unite with the cosmos. Yeah? Visualize yourself being a part of the cosmos to be able to achieve any goal you may be having in life. Despite any schizophrenia label professionals may have thrust on you, despite any schizophrenia label you may be having. So, at one point in time, I wanted to be adept at computer science. I meant operating computers, knowing how to operate computers for all the day to day transactions and professional work I needed to do. And yeah, I had to be proficient at computers. It was the need of the hour. But there was a time when I didn't know a single thing about computers. And today, I'm proficient at computers, operating computers. And how did this happen? How did this happen? Let me tell you the story of how I communed with the cosmos to make it happen. Or rather, how, when I communed with the cosmos made it happen. It was not a willful effort on my part that made it happen, it was effort on the part of the cosmos. When you take one step towards the cosmos takes 10 steps towards you. Yeah? So what happened anyway? What happened anyway? How did I overcome computer phobia despite having had chronic schizophrenia at some point in time? And how did I become very proficient at handling MS Office and computers, for instance? So I will start off by telling you how I got this computer phobia. When I passed my 12th grade examination with full marks in mathematics in my second attempt, meaning full marks for whatever I had attempted, 100% marks in mathematics, I attended a course in computers at an institute called the Brilliant Computer Center, or the first C Computers, whatever it was called then in 1994 to make it more accurate. So when I attended the course, I protested against certain unethical things that people in that institute were doing. Yeah. And so all the instructors who came there with only half knowledge of computers and how they worked and all of that, and who were supposed to teach us how to operate computers, were irritated with me and refused to answer my questions in class. There were two reasons why they didn't answer my brilliant questions or doubts about the subject matter. One reason was they didn't have half as much of a conception of the whole subject as professors in the normal engineering colleges and universities would. These people at the institute hadn't understood the subject properly. And when I asked brilliant questions about the subject matter, and they were unable to answer, they tried to make me feel guilty by saying you should go to the library more often, you should be analyzing things. My question is, without even teaching somebody the letters of the English alphabet, how do you expect the person to construct sentences in English or words in English or understand words in English or write words in English? Right? It was as absurd as that. So there was this vicious cycle which developed. I tried to understand things. They wouldn't answer my questions. I would go to the library and read up more books. and I would have more doubts, all the more questions about the subject matter, even more questions about the subject matter would crop up. And then I would come and ask them those questions, and they wouldn't answer any of these questions and make me feel even more guilty about my parents spending money on me. And I would come home crying and saying my parents had spent a lot of money and it was of no use in that silly institute. My parents spent a bomb trying to educate me by paying this institute, and the instructors there weren't answering my questions. And when I came home and cried, my mother's friends and my mother's relatives influenced my mother to stupidly believe in their negative feedbacks. She was surrounded by a pack of fools whom she completely believed. All of them told me that I was lazy and that I was putting up theory dramas because I didn't want to put in effort to learn computer operations. That is what one person also emphasized on. And this person was my mother's friend's would be daughter in law. And she was staying with us at that point in time, staying with us in our place for 6 months. This girl was misleading my mother. She didn't have brains herself, this girl. She didn't have half the brains I had. I was so smart at mathematics and I was very good at understanding computers, and I understood quite a bit. And when there were some tough parts which came and the instructors weren't knowing how to communicate an understanding of that to the students, and they couldn't explain things to me because I was asking really brilliant questions, and they made me feel guilty. And I came home and told my mother's friends would be daughter in law, yeah, about my problems. She only tried to make me feel guilty by saying, "You are lazy, you are not wanting to put in effort." She didn't know how to solve the problem. So she put the blame on me, and my mother simply couldn't see through her games. And my mother believed her and kept saying, "You are not putting in effort. You are not putting in effort." And I wouldn't even, I'm sorry, I would try even harder to understand, and even more doubts would crop up. And people around me wouldn't answer those doubts, I mean, the lecturers at the institute couldn't, and when this happened repeatedly, this vicious cycle kept repeating itself, I developed a computer phobia. So, with tears in my eyes, I had to quit that institute then. And when I quit the institute, I got into a speech and hearing course, and due to reasons that were unavoidable and what my mother did to me, which I overcame via a brave fight, which I will cover in another video, I had to quit the course. Now I got into doing a BA course, and I put my mind, heart, and soul into studying as I did earlier also, but with no result because of a horribly dysfunctional, gullible mother. But this time, I was getting results with my BA. I put my heart, mind, and soul into studying. I taxed my body, I taxed my brain, not taxing it too much, but taxing it to the extent of not letting it give excuses to not work. Of course, previously also, I was putting in a lot of sincere effort, but it was of no avail. And this time, when I put in sincere effort in my BA, I started getting results. So I passed my BA, 3 years of BA, with a silver medal, and I got into doing an MA, master's, I mean. So now, when I got into doing my master's, the university said computer science was a compulsory subject. They wouldn't give me my master's degree unless I passed a computer science paper in theory. And had practical knowledge of MS Word, and my parents were not computer literate. Nobody who was staying with me at that point in time was computer literate. My father had a computer phobia, which he was communicating to me constantly because of his completely dysfunctional pattern of behavior and his completely dysfunctional attitude towards his children. So, what did I do? So then I remember going to church and I knelt before the crucifix of Jesus and I prayed my favorite prayer to infant Jesus of Viveknagar and Prague. And I cried about the fact that I had to pass a computer paper but didn't know a thing about computers. How would I even do it? When I cried and I had to cry myself out completely and surrender to Jesus, I experienced a sudden stillness and calmness all around and suddenly entered the field of pure potentiality. Yeah. Now I just stayed with the calmness for some time and I planted a simple intention in the field of pure potentiality. I lifted my hands up to heaven and said, Jesus Christ, Lord of the cosmos, save me now. Make me an adept in computers. I didn't know a thing about computers. I don't know a thing about computers, and I've got a whole exam to pass. And Jesus heard my cry, and when I came out of the church, I was full of calmness and peace. Now, I'm not asking all of you to go to the church. You can go to the church, or to the temple, or to the mosque, or to the Gurudwara, or to the synagogue, or any other place you feel comfortable going to. Worshipping any god you feel one with, and the need and I'm sorry, and that need not necessarily be something your family follows or something your family has been conditioned to worship or is trying to condition you to worship. Yeah. I remember a whole lot of uncles and aunts in my Hindu family setup who were trying to tell me not to worship Jesus. And I told them, please mind your own business. I will commune with the cosmos. I will communicate with any force I want to commune with and communicate with. And so I called my friend Janaki, who was staying close to my house, to explain the syllabus to me. Yeah. And she elaborated whatever was done in the first class, in the first session with me in college. I had a wonderful lecturer by name X. I have not mentioned her name. So let's call her X. I went up to her after the first class got over, and Janaki had explained it to me when I came home. I mean, the next day, I went up to her. I went up to X and said, Mrs. X, I don't know how I'm going to really fare at computers because I have a neurological defect. I did not tell her that I had a schizophrenia diagnosis because that was far too stigmatizing. I didn't want to tell her that. So I told her, I have a neurological defect and you help me understand the subject matter to the maximum possible extent, but I would also need your help in the sense if you give me a set of 10 instructions, then because of the trauma I've undergone at a computer institute so many years ago, if you give me these 10 instructions, I will not be able to follow them instantly. I will follow them only if I write them down, go over them 2 times, practice them on the computer by looking at them 2 times, and then practice them twice without looking at them. That is when the instructions are going to be embedded in my memory, and that is when I'm going to be able to perform a computer practical exam. So please give me time when I ask for time to understand stuff. She sweetly said, Lavanya, I understand exactly how you feel. Don't worry, but do your best. The universe actually facilitated this. The cosmos facilitated this. The cosmos was handling the whole issue from behind the scene. So she said, Lavanya, put your heart, mind, and soul into studying computers, MS Office, and I'm sure you'll find a way to understand the subject sometime, somehow. Now, that being said, Janaki came to my house every day after that for 3 weeks and explained everything to me. Yes, she would come for an hour every day and explain things in computer science which were being taught to me in college. And of course, I had a whole lot of other subjects to study, which I also studied diligently. So Janaki would make me redo the exercises. She was doing them on my computer, which was a third hand computer, not even a second hand computer, because my mother knew I would be a computer illiterate unless I learned computers. So my mother had bought me a third hand computer. And Janaki would come and she taught me how to send an email. When Janaki first taught me how to send an email in 1998, it was in 10 steps. I wrote down all the steps. I went over them twice, thrice, 4 times, and I was not going over them that many times because I was brainless or because I was stupid. No, I beg to differ. Ladies and gentlemen, that was not the case. I was going over them so many times because of the fear and excessive anxiety that had been induced in me, conditioned in me by the dysfunctional institution, by my mother's friends, would be daughter in law, who'd had no sense herself, yes. So, in any case, I went over the instructions that Janaki gave me 10 times and I wrote them down. And then I went over them 10 times. And then I tried to look at the instructions and implement them on the computer twice. And then I tried to implement the instructions without seeing any of those instructions on how to send an email. And then I was able to send an email. So that was the extent of anxiety that had been conditioned in me, I repeat, by my negative and gullible mother and so many other people around, especially my negative father, who wasn't too good as far as bringing up his children was concerned. He may have been very brilliant at solving problems in the office, but it was not so when it came to solving problems in his own children's lives or managing things on the domestic front, for that matter. He was an absolute zero at that. Then I sought Janaki's help, and Janaki came to my house 3 times and explained the whole of MS Office to me, and then I was ready. At least I thought I was ready. I think I had learned all of it and I had the confidence that I could implement it. And I was also good at studying the theory in computer software. Yeah. And so I went to the examination and wrote the theory part. But when I had to do the practicals, when I had to do the practical exercises, experiments in computers, okay, some of the tasks that we were supposed to do without anybody's help, they took us to a lab and gave each of us a computer. Each of the students during our masters was assigned a computer to perform the practical experiments. And the moment I looked at my computer, I began feeling giddy out of fear that had been conditioned in me in the past by unwanted people. And when this happened, I remember the last thing I said was, Jesus Christ, Lord of the cosmos, save me now. And I just fell unconscious. I just blacked out. After some time, I don't know what duration of time, I found myself lying on the floor when I opened my eyes, and the sweet professor was sitting right next to me, the computer science professor, I mean. Yeah. And she was tapping my face gently and putting water over my face and saying, Lavanya, Lavanya, wake up, dear. And I just took one look at her and I thought of my infant Jesus, the great infant Jesus of Viveknagar and Prague. And when I thought of the great infant Jesus of Viveknagar, I don't know what happened, but that sweet professor whispered something in my ear. She said, Lavanya, I know how sincerely you've been working to pass your computer paper. You've written the theory paper, and now you have to do the practicals. I understand you're blacked out, but I'm going to help you. And all the other girls were busy answering their practical examination. They were busy doing whatever was supposed to be done, while the professor kept whispering in my ear. She kept whispering instructions in my ear. And when I failed to carry out some of those instructions, I mean, she practically did the experiments for me. And she said, Lavanya, don't worry too much. But after this exam, I want you to be really adept at computers. Promise me that. And I promised her that. And again, I looked at Jesus in my mind's eye and I said, how am I even going to do this, Jesus? But anyway, the worst fear was over. I said to myself, the worst fear is over. She's helped me answer my practical paper, and I'm just going to come out of the examination hall with a heart full of joy. So I came out of the examination hall, I went to the church and knelt before the crucifix and cried out of sheer gratitude this time. I then thanked God and I said, Lord Jesus Christ, I know you will teach me to be adept at computers one day. And I got an answer which was, in the form of a very strong intuition. It was call Janaki for the fourth time again and learn computers, learn MS Office. And I called Janaki that very day. I didn't want to rest after that last exam. I called her over a period of 1 week. She came and taught me all of what she had taught me previously. And this time, all the instructions went right inside my head, went right into my head without any problem. They seamlessly entered my head, and I was operating the computer and doing the practical experiments that had to be done and that had been asked of me in the examination paper. I still had the question paper in my hand, and when I practiced the activities a couple of times, I was now able to do everything without any help. And Janaki was such a sweet friend. And then I told my uncle Ullas about the fact that I was able to now do things which I was previously unable to do on computers or with computers. I did the practical exercises. I did all of what was required to be done as part of MS Office, and Uncle Ullas told my mother, you have to buy her a good PC, a personal computer. I mean, I already had a personal computer, but it was a third grade computer. He said, you have to buy her a first class personal computer because she's now past her MA degree. And by the way, folks, I stood fourth for the whole of Bangalore University in MA, and I got my golden trophy, and I was so happy and was doing a PhD, and it was all the more necessary for me to operate computers. So when I did my PhD successfully, I was seamlessly operating computers because now I was very familiar with computers, and I even performed quite a few gimmicks while I was doing my PhD. I mean, I undertook quite a few adventures. I went to the National Institute of Health Library, the NIH library in Washington, for instance, via Google. I went to the National Institute of Health Library in Washington, the online medical library in Washington, made a virtual tour of the whole campus, hacked that library, and took 10 papers out of the library. That was the extent to which I had become proficient at operating computers, all because the initial block had been cleared. And the worst that could happen had happened. I had blacked out in my exam in my MA and still passed my master's, and the fear was gone completely. And I learned MS Office. I learned more and more of how to operate computers. So many new features were being introduced in Google, Gmail, and I learned to operate all of those features because they were user friendly and user driven. And whenever I had doubts, Janaki or somebody else would explain things to me, and most of all, my uncle Ullas. And so when I became proficient, I even learned how to make PowerPoint presentations, PPTs, without anybody's help. I did it all by myself. And when I had to defend my PhD thesis, I went to the arena where the whole university had gathered to watch me defend my thesis, and I defended it beautifully after explaining all my PowerPoint slides to the audience and answering all the questions they were asking me, as also the questions the professors were posing. I finished my PhD successfully, and after that, I undertook work with a couple of NGOs, and the people in those NGOs taught me, my co-workers taught me how to navigate online applications, answer questions online, answer funding applications. A lot of learning happened, and I was even more adept at handling computers. Previously, my PhD thesis had been appreciated, and I went all around the world. I went to 12 different countries around the world, yeah, presenting research papers in mental health and recovery because I was now Dr. Lavanya Shai, and I had no problems presenting papers via my laptop because when I, prior to this, finished my PhD, Uncle Ullas told my mother why I needed a laptop. He told her she needs to go to conferences all around the world. She needs to travel, and she's begun traveling, so she needs a laptop. And my mom bought me a laptop, and I began going to conferences all around the world. I was funded to attend every one of these conferences. I didn't spend a paisa when I had to attend any of these conferences. And I began presenting research papers and performing the essential operations seamlessly on my laptop. So this is how I underwent and overcame computer phobia. So how did it all start? It started with me entering the field of pure potentiality, surrendering to the cosmos, meaning to Jesus Christ, whom I say is the cosmos, and telling him, Jesus Christ, Lord of the cosmos, teach me computers. I pray to Jesus. You could pray to Jesus or Rama or Allah or Krishna, whatever higher power you believe in. Pray to whatever God or goddess you believe in. Yeah. Or whatever god or goddess you have the most connection with and whose name you want to commune with the cosmos. Or maybe if you don't want to take the name of any god or goddess, you could just call it universal energy or cosmic energy or whatever you want to call it. Even that will be shown to you by the cosmos. So if this message has helped you, I will be very happy. Remember, my friends, irrespective of what other people say, if you commune with the cosmos on a day to day basis, if you become one with the cosmos, when you are in difficulty and when you are in trouble, the cosmos will bring people, events, situations, circumstances, and shape them up in such a way that every bit of your ambition is fulfilled. You can also achieve this through affirmations, daily affirmations. All your ambitions will be fulfilled, but leave the how and the when to the cosmos. There's nothing that's impossible. I refuse to agree. I refuse to believe that there is something impossible for anybody for that matter. Everything is possible for every human being. What you do should just be in line with your passion. It is just that you have to break through your limiting beliefs. And you can do that by communing with the cosmos. That's the best way to do it. When you give up the ego, when you give up your ego, when you give up the notion that you are the one doing everything, when you understand that You are not the one making everything happen. Yeah? The The cosmos is in control. The cosmos brings people, situations, and events in your path, and they start panning up in such a way that every bit of your desires is fulfilled. Every one of your desires is fulfilled. Every one of your ambitions is fulfilled. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like today's hack and message on how to overcome blocks, fears, or phobias despite having or having had a diagnosis of chronic schizophrenia, click the bell button, subscribe to my video, subscribe to my channel, my YouTube channel, and spread the love and spread the word everywhere. Remember, schizophrenia is not a brain disease, it is a set of behaviors that are conditioned in a person who is forced to live in an unlivable social environment and a control command traumatic atmosphere where there has been absolutely no freedom to grow, to learn, to fail, to get up again, dust oneself, and go forward in life. Share this with your friends. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Lavanya Sheshishai, India's first recovery specialist, women's mental health specialist, and psychotherapist, signing off. Love you a lot and thank you for listening. See you in my next video. Yeah, see you in my next video. And I invite you to be part of my course, which can change your very life, the very trajectory of your life. Love you a lot and thank you for listening again.